I've got my microphone just here because there's a really annoying local dog that's barking. I'm going to do a little bit of an unboxing. Raspberry Pi 4, 8 GB. I bought it with the official power supply. It is recommended. And I also went passive with the passive cooling with this bad boy. I got it in red to match my glorious skate wine, and I have to say I've been quite happy with this one. So we'll do a little bit of an unboxing, a little breakdown. So this is the Raspberry Pi 4 package that I got from Pomerone. Inside we've got the power cable. I went for white because I'm a Mac snob. It's got a lovely raspberry. How close can I get with that? Lovely Raspberry Pi branding on it, and it's just your standard USB-C. Next up, we've got the Raspberry Pi branded HDMI cable, micro HDMI to normal. Lovely branding. This one here is the Heatsink. Now I got this for overclocking, and to go with my branding, to go with Raspberry Pi, I've got it in red. So there we go. That's passive cooling. There is no fan, so it's nice and quiet when you watch Netflix or anything like that. I know that my Mac makes a noise, whereas this now won't make a noise when you watch it. That comes with Allen key screws, so we'll get that sorted out in a minute. Finally, the Raspberry Pi 4 8 GB. This thing is single motherboard computer. It's absolutely tiny. Look at that. Got the instructions there. I also like the packaging is really nice. I really like that. Looks really like well designed. Power plug. I really like this. The design is just absolutely lovely. So to get an idea of how small this single board computer is, I've got my trusty styling card here, and I mean, when they say it's credit card sized, look at that. They are not joking. It's absolutely tiny. It's got 8 GB of RAM. It's got 2 USB 3, I think it is. 2 USB 2, you've got a phono jack, the 2 micro HDMI outs, and then the power, and then you've got Ethernet. It's got Bluetooth on board. I don't know why I'm still holding my card, and Wi-Fi. And the Wi-Fi, I've been using it with this case, and I have to say that I've been upstairs and the Wi-Fi's been absolutely fine. Haven't had any issues with the Wi-Fi for streaming, etc. Really like the Raspberry Pi logo on that, it's lovely. I have to also point out that after buying the Raspberry Pi 4, I then bought a Raspberry Pi 0W, which is a little bit slower. I've got it for Pi-hole and Pi VPN. Do a number of little projects on that. I think it's only got 512 megabytes of RAM compared to the 8 GB of the Raspberry Pi 4. And I mean, look at the size. This one's £10, so it's a nice little computer project if you're into your computers. The Raspberry Pi, this one was £60, but then all the kit included was £101.09 from Pomerone. So yeah, the site, just look how tiny that is. It's unbelievable. So this is the Pomerone heatsink case, and I've had my Pi now for 2 months and it's worked really well. I have done a stress pre where it did actually not do too well at 2 gigahertz. After about, I think it was about 15 minutes, it was throttling, but I've not had to use it for any intensive programs. So Netflix, YouTube, just general browsing, this has been perfect for it, keeping it well below 70 degrees. I think it's, when you're watching Netflix and YouTube, probably gets around 65, but it is the summer here in the UK at the moment, so it's probably about 20 degrees in the room. This comes with thermal pads. Mine are absolutely butchered because I've pulled it apart for the video. But yeah, you'll get some nice brand new thermal pads. This probably won't even work now that I've done this. You just take it, put it on top. It fits lovely over the top, and then spin it around. Try not to touch the board like I am, and then that just pops on top like that. Now, I would suggest not over tightening these bolts. I did it up as super tight the first time, and now taking it apart, I think I probably over tightened it. So I would suggest just doing it very gently to begin with, and then maybe after a day or two, just just test to see how it is and whether it's jiggling about, if there's any give, because I tightened mine right up and the heatsink pads were absolutely squashed in between. So I don't think they needed to be that tightly done up. So just, there we go. Make sure it's not, moving around. That's solid. And that, I have to say, I'm a geek, but that is absolutely beautiful. It looks like some sort of alien radiator. I think that's brilliant. Really, really love it. And it's just so tiny. I mean, again, a comparison. Look at that. That is just tiny. One beginner question that I was worried about was mouse and keyboard. This is a Logitech K270, I believe. You've got this little dongle here that goes into the Pi or whatever computer you've got, and then you've got this keyboard, and I've got this little mouse here. And with these, you don't need a wired keyboard or mouse. It was a question that I looked over the internet before I bought my Raspberry Pi, and I couldn't find it. So you don't actually need a wired keyboard or mouse. This will work fine. I don't think a Bluetooth will, though, because you obviously need to be able to access the Bluetooth menu, which some operating systems, the Bluetooth is automatically turned on and maybe it will pair, but I would go with something like this. Connecting your Raspberry Pi 4 up, you've got the HDMI. The mini HDMI is actually the one on the left next to the power plug. So that one goes in next to the power, and then your power plug goes in next to it. And then you have two lights. One on the left means it's reading an SD card, and the one on the right means it's on. Now, I haven't actually put my SD card in here, but the SD card goes in the slot just here. I looked online and the recommendation is actually this SD card here. The Evo is supposedly the best one. Looking forward to all the comments saying that I'm wrong. And that just pops in the slot here. Nice easy access as well with this Pimeroni case. Really happy with that. And it just pokes out a little bit there. I've ripped off an on and off button from an old Razer, which is this one here. So I ripped off that, and this is the button here. And I've attached it to the GPIO pins. I would suggest doing this at your own risk. I'm not recommending this. This is something that could break your Raspberry Pi. But yeah, it's worked out really nicely. That works as a button now to turn it on and off. There's a bit of code that you need to put in to turn it off, but it works straight off the bat to turn on. So you can leave your power in and just turn it on and off from the button, because that is one thing. There's no on and off button unless you've bought one. There's no on and off button, so it's just a case of unplugging and plugging it back in to restart your Raspberry Pi. So that's a really nice little feature. You can, if you know a little bit about electronics, you can rip some old electronics to pieces like I've done and use it as an on-off button. Again, I would not suggest doing this, but I've then screwed it into the side of the heatsink, so it's going to be really dangerous, no doubt. It'll probably overheat, melt the button to the heatsink and blow up. So yeah, don't do that, but I have, and it just stays there nice and secure. I can turn it on and off when I want with that button. Just a side note as well, the 0W, the light is actually opposite to the Raspberry Pi 4. So this LED will stay on, and then when the SD card is reading from it, it will temporarily go on and off. So if it's flickering on and off, it means that the SD card's being read. And then when it's not being read, the green light stays on, it really confused me when that first happened. So that's a little side note to the Raspberry Pi 0W, something to take on board. So I have to say, overall, I am truly happy with this little gem. £60 worth of, I mean, I've got a Windows computer next door, which I'm pretty sure is half the speed of this, and it's like massive. So really happy so far with the Raspberry Pi 4. I've just installed Twister OS 2 days ago, and I've gone through all of them, which I'll probably do a video on. I've gone through Kodi, Raspberry Pi OS, RetroPie, Monjaro, Ubuntu. I've been through all of them, and I have to say that I'm really enjoying Twister OS. It's beautiful, really nice operating system, and I've been running it very successfully on this. Got the drivers installed for the USB. I mean, I originally bought this for 4K playback, and I don't think it's capable just yet. These things are continuously being developed. They are literally a tool which I hadn't realised for making robots, servers, all sorts of electronic things can come from this. Just incredible. So I originally bought this for 4K. 4K is not doing so great. I have seen some people managing to do it relatively well, but I just haven't managed to, even with Kodi, managed to get the 4K playback. But it opened up a different world to computing for me, trying to learn bits of Python, how to install stuff, freeware. It's just brilliant. Really enjoying it so far. So I'm going to do some more coverage on the Raspberry Pi 4 and Linux operating systems, all that sort of jazz in upcoming videos. So stay tuned. I've got my microphone just here because there's a really annoying local dog that's barking. Hasn't barked all day. Now I want to do a YouTube video after work and it won't stop barking. So thanks, local dog, for barking.